A market in Nivelles, Belgium. Beautiful day. Hundreds take advantage of the sidewalk cafes in the city center, and of course the wonderful Belgian beers. Magnificent draft animals are shown in the open end of the square. Children ride animals more their size. These are children of peaceful times. Their grandparents and generations before were not so lucky. For centuries, Belgium has been a battlefield, often of third-party armies struggling for dominance of Europe. We intend to take a brief look at two such invasions, one near the end of Napoleon's 100 Days, 1815, and the other 1944, the second German invasion of Belgium during World War II. Both were impacted by delaying actions at tiny crossroads. This monument was erected in memory of a battle called Quatre. Quatre is a crossroads located south of Brussels in Belgium. In 1815, Napoleon came out of exile and decided to head north to attack Wellington, who was in Brussels. Napoleon brought troops up that road back there, and Wellington dispatched Belgian troops in the woods over there, and British troops across the road, including Gordon Highlanders, many of whom were from Sutherland, Scotland. The battle started at about 2 in the afternoon of June 16th. The grains in this field were so high that day that the French had to send riders up to find the British lines. Their initial attack was slow, as they feared a hidden enemy force. The French attacks had some success in the early stages of the battle. The Belgian and Dutch in the woods were driven back at first, but maintained control of the woods. At the crossroads, both sides took numerous casualties, as the French continued their attack. Then, in a move, questioned still, Marshal Michel Ney ordered cavalry to attack the crossroads without infantry support. The cavalry managed to take the crossroads, but without infantry support, Highlanders hidden in trenches opened fire and managed to drive the French cavalry back. The battle ended at 9 p.m. with the French right back where they started. They had been delayed, had made no progress, and Wellington was alerted that the French were coming in earnest. 2 days later, Wellington dealt Napoleon a blow at Waterloo that meant the end of the Emperor's power. Over the next century and a half, Belgium would be a battleground in the Franco-Prussian War, World War I, and World War II. Many people have heard of the Battle of the Ardennes, commonly called the Battle of the Bulge. In December 1944, the Germans launched a major offensive. We've all heard the stories of the 101st Airborne under siege here in Bastogne, and General McCullough's famous reply to the German surrender demand of nuts, and also General Patton eventually breaking through. But smaller actions, like here at Barak de Friteur, also known as Parker's Crossroads, were what delayed and eventually doomed the German army from cutting through the Allied forces and getting to Antwerp. The 2nd Panzer Division was on a tight schedule in the offensive. They had blasted through the surprised Allied troops on the front line. Many of those scrambling unit fragments were patched together by officers who had lost their own units. One of those ragtag bands was pieced together by Major Arthur Parker. Parker was told to hold the crossroads. He strategically positioned his few artillery pieces along with some quad 50 caliber anti-aircraft weapons. The night of December 20th, a forward outpost encountered their first German probe. It was the middle of the night in the fog, and they were dug in across the road over there. They heard Germans approaching on bicycles who came to within 10 yards of their position, so they called into Major Parker and whispered to him what they had seen. Major Parker told them that he'd fire his .45 once, and then open up with the quad 50s, and then as a signal, he'd fire his .45 one more time, so that they could quickly make their way back down the road to the crossroads. As you can see, the terrain here is very much like that at Quatre. In this case, the invading army, the Germans, were coming in from the south and the east, but there was sufficient open terrain to hit them with artillery before they got within range to fire back. The Germans sent further probes over 2 days, and they were all repulsed. Finally, after an all-out attack, including a flanking move around the west, and an all-out artillery barrage, the Germans took the crossroads. A few of the survivors made their way out at the last minute, running across this field and into the woods. The others were captured. General James Gavin, who had been the commander of the 82nd Airborne in the Battle of the Bulge, wrote a letter to Major Parker, in which he said, "That stand your defenders made at the crossroads was one of the greatest actions of the war." Two crossroads, two parts of Belgium, two different eras, same result.